So yeah, I was editing a video about Game Pass, about indies on Game Pass, which will probably come out next week or so. And this news just broke about Redfall being 30 frames per second. Quite frankly speaking, I'm baffled. I'm baffled because it. I mean, where do we start from when it comes to conversation of this particular type of conversation? So, in 2023, you would think every first. I mean, let's look at it from this angle, right? It's the case of you releasing a third-party game at 30 frames per second is a problem, but it's a problem that people can cope with. We saw the whole issue with Gotham Knights released at 4K 30, and it didn't do well. A Plague Tale Requiem released at 4K 30. It's still 4K 30 till now. There isn't a 60 frames per second patch or anything, but it's a third-person semi-open area adventure game similar to Uncharted. But for a game like that, I think you're probably allowed, not necessarily allowed, you're probably able to get away with it. But for a first-person shooter game, it's highly unacceptable that frames isn't prioritized, because I think the smoothness of how the game plays, I think the smoothness of the game's frame, I think the smoothness of the game's animation and things like that makes a big difference in how things just work in general to begin with in the first place. So, talk us about you being a first-party studio under Microsoft, and to think that you can release your game at 30 frames per second, a first-person shooter game released at 30 frames per second as a first-party studio is highly unacceptable. I'm going to, man, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. It's mind-boggling, because you would think you being a first-party studio means that you are giving some level of technical support from the company or the platform that you're publishing on, whereby you are you're optimizing your game to the fullest ability of the Xbox's performance, both Series X and Series S. Now, here's the thing, right? This is from the same studio, Arcane, who have made great games but haven't sold well because of marketing issues or things like that. But you released Deathloop on the PS5. And apparently, Deathloop on the PS5 released. I'm playing Deathloop right now on the Xbox Series X. So far, I'm enjoying the story. So far, I like the concept of the game, even though I'm not a big roguelike fan. And it runs at 60 frames per second. Apparently, it released that it had 4 different options for frame rate and optimization and graphic fidelity. So it really makes no sense whereby with a game as Redfall, that, to be fair, as much as the art style is good, it still doesn't give you that, oh, this is a next gen game. If we're going to be completely honest, we're not getting the, oh, this is the next gen type of game we're talking about. This isn't exactly, it's not, the graphic fidelity of this game isn't anything close to an Uncharted, it isn't close to like a Gears of War 5, it isn't close to like an Arkham Knights. It's not. It's not a pretty looking game. The art style is okay, and this is just from marketing. Yes, I understand that we haven't played the game. Yes, I understand that, yeah, this is all going on marketing and things like that nature. And yeah, that's fine. But at the end of the day, it's a case of, look, this is unacceptable. It makes no sense. So, but you're also telling us that, look, the game is going to come in quality mode alone, and performance will be down the path. Why on earth don't you just delay the game and make sure that the game is fully optimized for the power of the Xbox Series X? You're a first-party studio, so that means anything you release is synonymous to the performance and the capability of the Xbox. It makes no sense what they're doing, and quite frankly speaking, it's bringing out a lot of questions about the management style, or maybe Xbox in terms of like accountability or product management and things like that. So everyone is to blame for a game not being fully ready, especially a first-party studio game not being ready. If this game was delayed from 2022 into 2023, you can still delay the game again to maybe July 28th or something. You're a game that's dependent on multiplayer aspects. You're an only online game, which for me personally makes no sense. Only online host progression only, and now you only run a 4K 30. You're coming in between the likes of Jedi Fallen Survivor and Breath of the Wild. There is no way you are going to retain your audience. It's impossible. It's impossible. It makes no sense. Now, a lot of questions arise from this particular thing happening. Now, we're all thinking about, okay, the acquisition of companies. What happens when there are too many companies under one entity and that entity can't possibly govern every single thing that's going on in the company? Arcane is previous to Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda. Bethesda was a publisher for Arcane Studios. Now, the issue is, it looks like Microsoft has like a no hands approach to development and to governing first party developers and things like that. But with something like this is obviously a mess. It's obviously there's obviously something wrong, and there's obviously something not sitting right with how this company is being run. Now, what's going to happen next? Now everyone is looking at the biggest next Xbox release, which is Starfield. Now everyone's going to ask the question, is Starfield going to run at 4K 60? Is it going to run at 1080p 30? I mean, that's impossible. Hopefully it is. But this doesn't inspire confidence. The game, honestly, from the get-go, from the marketing, from even the IGN gameplay that we just saw, everything about the game, there's a K-leg to it, you know what I mean, Killy? There's a K-leg. It's like, oh, it looks good, but there's this. It looks good, but there's this. It's a vampire hunting game, but there's this. There's always a but. And at this point, I don't know what's going to happen. At this point, I think it's just going to be a mess. I think, in my honest opinion, you have to delay the game. I'm stammering. No, I'm not stammering, sorry. I'm all over the place with my thinking because, man, this is a lot, man. This is a lot. Yeah, so what do you guys think? Leave a comment in the comment section down below. And I'm baffled. And even though I love my Xbox Series X, I've enjoyed having my Series X and my PS5, but at the same time, you also have to come to the realization that something is not working at Xbox, something not working at Microsoft, and something has to be resolved quickly. Now, is this a case of you're only releasing this game because it's on Game Pass, and so you think it gets away with, we can release like a mediocre, not optimal game on Game Pass? That's another question that has to be asked. Is there any form of quality assurance for games being released on Game Pass in the first place? Whereby you're seeing subpar games being released on, par games being released on the service. It's a whole mess. Leave a comment section down below what you guys think, and yeah,